It's your girl, Charlotte Van Horn, Black expats in Panama by way of Little Old Glassboro, New Jersey. You know it, right here on blacksetradio.com. And I am so glad to be coming to you guys today because I have a guest. Her name is Jalila Clarke, and her story is so interesting. She is actually going to talk to us about childbirth here in Panama. And sometimes, Panama has just gotten to be more popular with younger people moving in, raising children and everything, because as everybody knows, it is the place to retire, okay? But with, being able to work remotely and the good private and international schools that they have here in Panama, more and more younger people or people raising families are coming. Her story is amazing. She's out in the Boquete area, not in Boquete, but she'll tell you all about that. And you're just going to love hearing from her. So with that said, I ain't got time to sit and chit chat and smile. I'm finna bring Miss Jalila Clarke on the line. Are y'all ready? All right, hang tight. This is Charlotte Van Horn, Black expats in Panama by way of Little Old Glassboro, New Jersey, right here on blacksetradio.com. Let's get her on the line. And just like that, here she is, Miss Jalila Clarke. How you doing?
Great, and you?
I'm doing so well, and I'm so glad that that our paths finally had a chance to cross. You have such an interesting, expat story in the sense that you're actually a citizen of Panama
Mhm.
and you came back by choice. You came
Yep,
back, you decided to have your child here. It's just a
yep,
whole lot of stuff to get to, baby. So
yeah.
let's get into it. So go ahead, introduce yourself and your companion and tell the audience how you ended up in Panama, where you're from, and just a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah. So I'm originally from Panama. I was born in Panama City. And my mom moved us to the United States when I was like, I think a year and a half. And she wanted to give me a better life, more opportunity. Because like that's like the immigrant dream, no matter where like immigrants are from, they're like they want to go to like North America, the United States,
Yes.
okay, or Canada,
Mhm.
or like somewhere in Europe, like a larger European country to like
Yes.
make something of yourself, make something of their children. I read something the other day because I was reading this book. Um, Gosh, I can't remember what it was called, but it was basically about like I think it was called From CIA to CEO.
Mm.
And I think that it was in that book, but she said something like people like immigrants go abroad to like foreign countries and they work hard so that their offspring doesn't have to work as hard in the future.
Right.
So yeah, it could have been that one, or it could have been the brown girl, mental health for brown girls, something like that. But both of those women are from immigrant backgrounds, so that's okay. But anyway, so wanted me to have a better life or whatever. And we left, we went to the United States, to New York. We stayed there until we got citizenship. My uncle, her brother, was already there.
Mhm. What
He had
year
been in the
was
middle.
this around? Around what year was
Oh gosh, let me see now. So this must have been like 19.
this?
Wow. 19 80 or 19, yeah, 1979 or 1980.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I know you had asked me like my favorite 70s or 80s song, but obviously 70s, I was just like, a little tadpole being born.
But
And then yeah.
if you think about it, it's like when we're that age, we listen to our parents' music.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like the 70s and 80s. One of my favorite songs is Stay
Mhm.
in My Corner by the Dells. Don't ask me
Okay.
why it's my favorite song. I know every note, I know every grunt. That
Yeah.
song was literally, I want to say it was released in 1965. I was born
Okay.
in 1964.
Okay.
However,
Well,
it
well,
is one of my favorite songs from the 60s. So,
well, I'm glad that you said that
yes.
because my grandparents, I spent a lot of time with them, excuse me, when I was growing up, because even though my mom brought us to the United States, I had to go back to Panama to stay with my grandparents for like, gosh, maybe like at least a year, if not 2 years, because it was very hard for my mom in the United States as a single mom. My dad had died of what's it called?
Heart failure?
He went into a coma. His blood sugar was too high. Okay,
Hmm.
and then he passed away. And he was
Wow.
young, only 30. So obviously he didn't take care of himself as he should have.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so then, like even though she was in the United States, like it was hard for her, like, like having to go to work and then plus, even though she was a registered nurse, she'd gone to nursing school in Mexico, and that was considered like a good nursing school in Mexico. And then she came to the United States and no, sorry, she came to Panama and she had worked for 2 years. The problem that they do to immigrants is that when you go to the United States, they're like, oh, you have the certificate, you have this license. No, sorry, you need to go through all these courses. You need to get all this stuff brand new. It needs to be our stuff.
Yeah.
So she had to take a job, she told me, in like factories and stuff, which she was not accustomed to. My mom had never done like physical labor before. So it honestly made her feel bad. Plus, like it just was not enough money to pay for, the rent and the daycare, and then, like the her going to the classes, and it just wasn't enough money. So I went back to go live with my grandparents
Well, she
for like
got things
almost two
together.
years.
Well, she got on her
Yeah,
feet.
yeah. Yeah, and then so this was her mother's parents, but my father's family, I also spent a lot of time with them. Like they used to take me constantly to the
Was he
military.
Panamanian too?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. And they used to take me constantly. I mean, all my grandparents are deceased now, but or since I was in my 20s. But so we used to go to like Albrook. Remember, like when the military was still here until like 1999.
Mm-hmm.
So like I mean, I had up until 1999. So that was like, gosh, like into my teenage years when I would visit my family, because I would come every summer as well for 3 months. So a quarter of every year, my mom would just send me back home to be with my father's and my mother's family. So anyway, my father's family, they were still working. Obviously, they weren't retired, and they would take us to the Albrook, to the military base, and we would just spend like so much time there going swimming. They had a large, like Olympic sized pool. We would
Yes.
go to the library. I would check out books every week, like a stack of, they had a beautiful library. The only library I've seen like that since is in Boquete, but it doesn't compare to what that Albert library used to be.
So
Yeah.
you have a solid memory.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You have a
yeah. I used to
solid
come
memory
every
of
year
Panama.
until I was 18. Yeah, yeah.
So the
Hmm.
interesting thing is that what I find a lot is people leave their country for a better life,
Yeah,
up north, Canada, like you said, North America, but they come back for a
yeah.
better life
Yes.
at the end, and
Yeah.
it's like the rat race and the hustle was real and in the
Hmm.
north, and you can make a lot of money. But what I always say about Panama versus the United States for me is that,
Hmm.
like, my husband is a returning Panamanian. Okay, so he
Hmm.
left and came back 40 years.
Repat.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, he is just in his happy place. And he's always
Yeah.
said, I'm going back to Panama when I retire. So it's
Yeah.
like a regular trek. It's like you go there, to make more money and everything like that. But then when it comes to really enjoying your life, you
Yeah.
find the beauty in the more simplistic
Yes.
lifestyles of the
Yes.
Caribbean and Central and South America, and places like that. So you have that a lot. So
Hmm.
your parents are Panamanian.
Hmm.
you decided to come and live in Panama. Where do you live in Panama?
So I don't live in Panama City. I was there, to have my baby. But then I wanted somewhere that was like less rat race like. And so I found the province of Chiriquí. Okay. So it is closer to Costa Rica. Okay. So if you're looking at a map, it's closer to Costa Rica. I live in the area of like Algorobos, but I'm moving to David. So David is like the metropolitan city here, but the tallest building that I think I've seen is like 7 floors. Like
Wow.
that's it. Yeah. So you're like you don't see any high rises, sky rises. You don't see anything like that here.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, we do still have like traffic here in David, because people have cars, but it's nothing like Panama City. And the cost of living is less. So for instance, like, I know like, people talk about like, oh, well, I bought this or I paid this rent or whatever. And I found, it was difficult to get a place that was kind of surrounded by like nature and stuff like that. When you come over to here, like Chiriquí, which also has Boquete. I don't know,
Right.
in case
I was
any of
going
your
to say, I was
viewers
going to tell our
want to go to
listeners,
Boquete.
yes, most
Yeah.
people are familiar with Boquete, so you're not far
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Boquete.
Yeah. So I'm 30 minutes south of Boquete. So I'm in between Boquete and David. Okay. So anyway, so if you come over here, like I'm renting a 2 bedroom, 1 bath house for 600. And that's considered pricey because it's furnished, but like full furnished. So like plates, sheets, everything was like all I had to do was just bring the suitcase and come in. I
Right.
didn't have any furniture because I had been living abroad, for about 5 years. So I didn't have any furniture when I once lived in China for 3 years. And when I left, I got rid of all my furniture. So that's why I didn't bother to get any more. But anyway, yeah.
So when did you come back to Panama and what brought you back here? So you
Yeah, so I
came back.
came.
So wait a minute, you came back to Panama, but did you
Yeah.
come like directly from China?
No, actually, that's surprising. So okay, so the Shanghai lockdown happened. So I don't know if remember that. It was kind of like international
During
news. This
COVID.
Yeah, well, this was
Yes.
2022. The
Okay.
whole world was like enjoying themselves, and
Yes.
China
I
was still
remember.
shutting down cities. And so this was 2022, and this was March. And they were like, well, we had several cases of COVID, I guess several cases too many for their likes.
Hmm.
And then they shut down the city of Shanghai. So that was March, April, May, June. Yeah, and that was it. And so like we weren't going to school to teach, people weren't going out to work, nothing. Basically we were getting food delivery from the government, but also we could band together in our building. Like I lived in a very expat building and lots of expats, knew other expats who had like a restaurant, catering service, whatnot. And they were like, hey, if you send a delivery driver, and their delivery drivers were able to get like you had to get like a special card, like a compensation to like go out and get stuff because they understood that was your job. If it was not your job to be out in the streets,
Right.
you couldn't get no compensation. Like if you were like a
Right.
taxi driver, you could prove that. But like if you were just like, no, I just want to be out. No, you better stay in your house. Yeah. So
Right.
anyway, so like these restaurants and stuff, because Shanghai has like a lot of Western restaurants. Okay. So, they were like, hey, if you guys could band together and make an order of like 20, 25 to
Hmm.
make it worthwhile to me,
Right.
fine. I'll discount the price a little bit and I'll send you all, like pizzas and sandwiches and hamburgers and desserts and blah blah blah. And you just, send the delivery driver. So that's how we were getting lots of our food. We weren't like
Okay.
relying on the government. Okay.
So when
Yeah.
did you leave China?
Oh yeah, sorry. You said that. Yeah, so I left so as soon as they opened the city, which was towards the end of June, then I started getting my papers together because how it works is that once you leave China and you're like, "Oh, well I need to get my, like my copy of my tax statement or my, my job show that I had been at this job, my reference or whatever
Right.
or you
Right.
know Anything like that, unfortunately, you can only do that stuff in person. So I had to do all that stuff, and then I left July 2022. So I left July 5th, and then I arrived in Colombia July 6th.
What
It
part
was
of
almost like
Colombia?
so first I went to Bogota because I
Mhm.
was like, oh, well, I've heard good things about Bogota, but I didn't like that the weather is chilly and rainy,
Mhm.
and I didn't like that. And I was like, I don't really like that. So then I went to Medellin, and oh my goodness, I loved Medellin. Oh, it was just
I gotta
wonderful,
go. I
wonderful.
haven't been yet.
Okay, yeah, it was wonderful. So I was renting a one bedroom apartment that
Uh-huh.
had a washing machine, a living room. Um, and I was renting it for $300 a month. And it was in it
Wow.
was in an expat area. So there were like two known expat areas, Poblado and Laureles. And I was living in Laureles. And there were people who could find the bedroom even cheaper, but you had to sign a lease. I
Mm-hmm.
was doing mine like month to month because I was like, well, I don't really want to lease. I had a lease every single year in China. I don't really want to do this. So
Right.
I was doing my month to month. So that's why it was $300 a month. It could have been
Mhm.
cheaper. But anyway, yeah, and it was pretty cool. The thing is that like I was eating like a lot of what's it called? Peruvian food, and I
Uh-huh.
really liked it. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I want to visit Peru to see if the food's just like this. So
Yes.
I went to Peru,
I love it.
and then I really enjoyed it. And I was there from October to November. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna move here to Cusco, which is kind of like a gringo thing to do. Like you go to Cusco, where people go to like begin the journey to Machu Picchu,
Mm.
like the
Aha.
ancient architecture, okay,
Yes.
of the
Yes.
the Incas. Okay. So
Like
so
the
you go
Incas.
so
The Incas.
yeah, so that's where you go to in Peru. And then, like it just feels so like special being there. There's a place called Sacred Valley. Oh, there's a mosquito. Sacred Valley. And it just feels so special being there. And so it was like, oh, I'm gonna move over here. Forget Colombia. Like I love this like whole spiritual vibe I'm getting. And yeah, and so anyway, so I moved over there from Colombia. And yeah, while I was there, okay, so do you want to know like
We went
because I
to,
had told you I did the
I'm
oh
trying to get you to Panama.
oh
I'm
okay,
trying to get,
okay.
so you left from China, you went to Colombia, you went to
Yeah,
Peru. Did you leave
yeah.
Peru and come to Panama? Or you went
No,
back to
okay.
the States?
So like I had told you before when we had a conversation before, like
Yes.
I did because okay, I had a very spiritual experience in Sacred Valley. Okay. So I
Okay.
met with a shaman. I did this drug which is legal there, and the local people do it. It's called ayahuasca. Okay.
Yes, I
And
keep hearing about that. They have it here in
yeah.
Panama. They have ayahuasca retreats.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, so I it was very deeply moving to me, and that's when I felt like the universe spoke to me and said, "You're ready. You go be a mom now. You're ready. You can do this. Don't worry about anything else. Go do this."
Just
So I
do
did the
it.
fertility, yeah, I started doing the fertility treatments, and thankfully it worked. And then after that, then I was like, oh well, I'm gonna travel. Well, actually, like while I was taking some hormones, I was like, well, I'm gonna travel South America so I can be calm and relaxed when I come back to do my embryo transfer, because I had gotten like donor
Yes.
sperm or whatever. So I went through like Ecuador and all these South American countries. And I liked Ecuador. It was even cheaper, and I liked it.
Were you in Manta?
Um, actually, I went to Cuenca. So it's like this small little city, but then they started having like all these. Well, I guess that they've always had problems with gangs or whatever, but or not always, but they had problems with gangs and stuff like that. And I was like, this is a little bit too sketchy for me. Like, there was this mayor who was assassinated. There was a presidential candidate who
Yeah,
was
there was a lot
assassinated.
going
I
on.
was like, yeah, I'm a little bit frightened because I'm pregnant and, like, this is a high risk pregnancy because I'm older. I'm like, let me get out of here. So I looked up what's it called? The best country for maternal mortality because I knew that that was not the United States, unfortunately.
Right.
Like if you look it
Exactly.
up,
Exactly.
and it said Estonia. So I went to Estonia, but I didn't get a digital nomad visa. I was a
Where's
digital nomad.
Estonia? Where's that?
Oh, so okay, so Estonia is right next to what's it called? Finland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so then
Yeah.
people are wondering, like, where does she work?
Oh,
So
okay.
how is it
Okay,
that you're
so
able to do all that?
so when I left China, like I had amassed like clients when I was okay, so when I was in China, I taught kindergarten, but
Hmm.
in like the evenings, like I like made friends with different recruiters and stuff, and I'd be like, hey, are there any like little tutoring jobs? Because like lots of expats tutor on the side. You get that little cash on the side, and you're like, woohoo! So so like I would get as you can tell, like I'm animated, and so like I would get referrals from what's it called, recruiters, and they would like contact their business clients, and they would say, hey, look, I'm recommending this person because she's very animated and fun and friendly, and I think you would have a good time learning from her. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Very talkative, and obviously the North American sound, and I think
yes.
you'd have a good time. So I started getting clients that way, and I would teach them honestly the same way that I would teach children. And so, and that's what I would tell them to begin with. I would tell them the reason that children in China learn English so easily, it's not just because they're children, it's because they're playing. When you play, you learn. So,
Yeah.
like, for instance, now, like, say if you go out and you want to play like soccer or chess, believe it or not, you're gonna learn because anytime you have fun at anything, you're gonna learn.
And
So, anyway,
singing
so
too.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's how I got like a bunch of different clients, a lot of private Chinese clients.
Mhm.
So with that, and I also went on different websites like Cambly and Preply. There's a whole bunch of different teaching English online websites.
So you're
And that's
able
how
to
I
work. So you're able to work digital. So
correct,
that
correct. Yeah,
is a big plus because you can just go anywhere and do that. So
correct. Yeah.
you started your IVF treatments
Yeah.
and you became pregnant right away.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, and this doctor in, well, this clinic in Peru, Clínica Miraflores, they have a really good a success rate. So, when I looked it up, like for instance, like, I'm also in a group of like women like 35 or older or 40 or older. It's one of those two where like they're doing like IVF. And there were women in there who were like, oh, well, this doesn't work or that doesn't work. And I noticed that like the things that he said to do were like it seemed like a little bit more than like some other people. So for instance, like he had me on baby aspirin 100 milligrams from the very beginning. This was before I did the embryo transfer.
Wow.
This was like from the very beginning. The hormones that he had me take, he had me come in like this was when I was in Lima for like 3 months. Okay, so like a couple months before the embryo transfer. He charted every single week to see the endometrial lining. And he was like, once it reaches 10, then we will do the embryo transfer.
What?
And I had heard from other people, they were like, no, I didn't do all that. Another thing too, he told me, he was like, oh, well, I think you should do this, I think you should do that. And he said, I think you should exercise. He's like, whatever exercise you like, do it. He's like, not anything intense, because once upon a time I was a police officer in the United States and I used to do CrossFit. Okay. So he's like, not that.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I also like to salsa dance. So that was great. That was great exercise. I used to go 3 times at least a week. Also, if you read in the literature, you go do acupuncture. That's for what's it called? It's called prenatal acupuncture. And
Okay.
they put all these needles like, in your pelvic area and stuff like that. Another thing that I did was that I also like drank this, it's like this tincture that you drink. So I'm telling you, like I was doing a lot of like, traditional medicine and a lot of like, like
Holistic.
mm,
Holistic.
exactly.
And then, I
Yeah.
just had a conversation similar to that. So, okay, so I just learned something new about
Yeah.
you. You had your treatments in Peru.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So now I don't want to spend the
Yeah.
whole time
Much
talking about
cheaper,
Ivy
much cheaper.
exactly. But what I'm thinking is that it was probably a whole lot more affordable
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
And the care sounds like you got a lot of one-on-one care.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'll say the price because people always ask me how much
Yeah,
it was, and
thank
I'll say the
you.
price. And let me just say, I paid out of my pocket. Okay. I took money out of my savings because like this is something that I knew I wanted.
Mhm.
And in the US, I knew I couldn't afford, and abroad I could. Okay.
Yes.
So I was like, look, I don't care that, maybe this money I might need for retirement. Look, I want this and I'm gonna get it, period.
So what
Okay,
did it
so
cost?
so it was $13,000.
Hmm.
Okay, and yes, that is a lot of money for me. Okay,
But
and
not when you consider IVF treatments, because I
yeah.
think there are people that spend like six figures on that.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so, that included like, that included like a bunch of hormones and, so they do like the what's it called, the scan of your uterus and all kinds of stuff. And excuse me, and that included the genetic testing as well. Okay, because
Wow,
yeah, I also had genetic testing done
that's
because, again, I'm
awesome.
not a spring chicken.
Right,
So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
So I'm okay now. I'm getting you to Panama. So what was
yeah,
amazing to me about
yeah,
your story is
yeah.
that you came to Panama at 7 months pregnant.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I left Estonia because I was declined for the digital nomad visa because they were like, actually, they don't give you a reason. I don't know why. But anyway, so the attorney I had was like, oh, well, we could fight it. And he's like, and then you could stay here for 2 years. And then I said, you know what? I think I'm gonna go home. And home in my feeling was Panama. And it's just because I'm gonna say this, I had had a dream, okay? And it looked like Panama. And so that's why I was like, I'm going home. That's home now. And I know what people might be thinking about the ayahuasca and the dream but I'm telling you, I've always lived my life very logically.
Mhm.
And it just wasn't getting me where I needed to go. And when I surrendered to something else, well, now I feel like I'm at my happiest. Okay, so that's that. But
My
anyway,
my
so yeah,
daughter my daughter got married in white the first time.
yeah.
She got married in red the second.
Oh,
Okay, and it
yeah.
was she got married in red, and she was literally her baby came like a week later.
Oh,
With
okay.
her now husband, who was just, they have a really, really good thing going. And so
Yeah.
sometimes like trying to stay traditional and,
Yeah.
trying to make all of the stars align and make
Yeah.
sure that
Yeah.
everybody that you're dealing with, that their
Yeah.
resume and their bank accounts and their credit reports are all like aligned, doesn't
Mhm.
really leave space for your
Yeah.
spiritual self. And
Yeah.
it just doesn't leave space for you to grow in ways that you aren't controlling.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, because it was declined, I decided, you know what, and because I had the dream, I don't know what would have happened if it had been approved. So anyway, so I had the dream and I was like, you know what, I'm going home. So anyway, so I came to Panama and I was going on 7 months pregnant, or I was 7 months pregnant. And yeah, so I messaged in, a mom group, and I was like, who can recommend a good OBGYN? And a couple people recommended the one that I used who delivered my baby. And
Mhm.
they said, she's very much a holistic doctor. She's not just about like, oh, you're pregnant, great, okay, here's your due date, come on this date. She's like, let's talk about lots of other things too, what's going on in your life, all kinds of things. And I was like, great, that's who I need. And so anyway, so when I got off the plane, 12 hours later was my appointment with her because I was 7 months. She was like, the moment you get here, the
Yes,
very next day, you are coming to see me. And
that
I
was
had kept
cutting it
up with
close.
all my appointments regularly, no matter where I was. I would immediately get an appointment. And because I don't know if, it was easy because I was high risk, but I was able to like get seen immediately, immediately.
Appointments are easier to get in Panama.
Okay. And
Anyway,
so, yeah, so I mean, no matter what country I was, like, yeah, they were like, okay, great, come on in, come on in. And,
wow.
I always went to a private hospital and I paid out of my pocket and, that's fine. And so anyway, but yeah, so I arrived, I was 7 months pregnant, and then I moved into an Airbnb from November to March. And it was in and it was in Edison Plaza in Panama City. And yeah, and I chose that place because like it was very
Close to the hospital.
central, very easy to get to. And
Yes.
in case anything had happened and I had to get the ambulance or anything, it's like a tall structure, building, and I could
Yes.
easily say I'm at Edison Plaza, I'm at this number building, and
Yes.
anyone could easily come get me. Yeah.
So tell us how your experience was having the baby here
Yeah.
and how it different than what you expected as far as your US knowledge.
It was a good experience, honestly. The only thing is that like towards the end, like the last 2 weeks, because I had him at 37 weeks. So at like 35 weeks, my blood pressure started to go up. And then my doctor was like, well, because she was like, well, we're gonna probably have to induce. So I was like, can't we wait? Can't we wait? She was like, I'll leave it for 1 more week. She's like, if it can be normal again, fine. But she's like, if not, I really don't want, like, say 2 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
for you to have an emergency. And she's like, this is Panama. She's like, yeah, it's lots of advancement, but she's like, anything could happen. The ambulance might not get there. There might be traffic. You get here now, you have to deal with an emergency doctor who doesn't know you or any medical stuff. She's like, I'd rather not have that happen. And I was like, okay. So we waited and it still just didn't come down great. And so yeah, so then the day of she was like, okay, well, yeah, let's go ahead and induce. And she did a scan, and his head was up where my heart is.
Mm-hmm.
And he had been moving and moving and moving. I don't know if you've heard of something called spinning babies. It's like this
My daughter did the same thing.
oh, okay, okay.
Mhm.
Oh,
I had to
okay.
have a C-section though.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had to have a C-section, yeah,
Yes.
because yeah, his head was up. So then
Yes.
she was like, "Well, she's like, do you see what I'm looking at? His head is right here
Right
underneath
here
your
in your
your
rib
right
cage.
breast."
Yep.
Yeah, and she's
Mine was
like, "We're
right
gonna
in
have to do a
right in my
C-section."
rib cage.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, "Really?" And she's like, "Yeah, yeah." And she's like, "In 2 hours, we're gonna have a room for you." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And so yeah, in 2 hours, I was in there. And yeah, I mean, it was very quick though, because I asked my mom. My mom was here as well. And my mom was a registered nurse in the United States. Like everything worked out after, a couple of years. And she
Okay.
was a registered nurse for 30 years and she retired in the United States. But anyway, so she was scrubbed in and she was watching. And I had hired a doula because I
Yes.
wanted to take some of like the emotional energy off of her, and
Mm-hmm.
the doula could be present with me and whatever emotions was happening, but my mom could be focusing on anything medical that they were doing. Okay. so so yeah, so my mom told me later, she was like, yeah, I was watching because I was like, I felt fine. Like I didn't feel like I lost blood, like I didn't feel weak or something. She's like, they did an excellent job. She told me, she was like, they were cutting and they were cauterizing and cutting and cauterizing. And she was like, they were doing it perfectly. And then she said, when they went in, oh, what's the matter? And she was like, then they went in to like, pull him by the legs. And then he pulled his legs back and they had to like take a step stool and stand up so they could like hover down and
Yes.
like pull out with their arms, like put their whole arms in.
Wow.
And yeah, and honestly, it went quickly. I didn't feel anything. That epidural is
Was it hard
amazing.
to get his legs to go down for a while? It was like his legs
Yeah,
stayed up. My daughter's
yeah,
legs were you know, like that too. It couldn't get them down.
yeah,
You had to wrap her real tight. So,
yeah,
so once you had the baby, so that was good. Your mother said they did a good job. It was good
yeah, yeah.
to have a doula.
And
Hopefully,
then
the
right
time to
after
think
that,
about
I
this.
went for an hour into like there's a waiting area where like a
Yes.
nurse is monitoring you,
Uh-huh.
and she was taking my vitals every 20 or 30 minutes. Yeah. And she was asking me like, how do you feel? And I was like, oh, I feel
After this
fine.
is after the baby.
Yeah, yeah, after they had taken him out. Yeah, yeah. So I was in that room for 1 hour, and that's where they put the pregnant woman because there was like one other woman who had delivered through cesarean. They had put her in there as well. Um, and there were three nurses in the room. So I mean, I guess that they were expecting someone else because there were like three nurses. So I guess they were expecting someone else. But anyway, and then after that, then they said, okay, everything's fine because my blood pressure dropped back to normal.
Right.
And then they took me to my private room because there was like there's two packages. There's a package that's $1,300 for vaginal birth, and there's a package that's
Wow.
$1,800 for cesarean.
Oh,
Yeah. So they were like, oh, well, I told them, I said, well, I want a really, really nice room because I knew my mom was going to be sleeping in the room. And they were like, okay, well, we can upgrade you, from just a standard room to like, a deluxe room, where like, it's like even more spacious. And I was like, okay, great. So then they wheeled me to that room. All the rooms are like on the 16th floor. And yeah, it was a good room. Yeah. Yeah.
and so I think that we were talking before, you were saying that you just didn't, there weren't things, so you had a good
Yeah.
delivery, it was excellent service, but you didn't feel the warmth that you might get in the US.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, the room was fine, but yeah, there were things that like I guess I was expecting because, like these are things that like, when you look at Instagram and stuff like that, when you look at social media, when you have friends who have delivered in the US, you understand, oh, well, they got like this wonderful meal and like they were like, oh yeah, and I took all these diapers and whatever and but there was nothing like that. Like the food honestly was not good. it was
Yeah.
it was a great private hospital. You like phenomenal private hospital, but the food was not good. So I don't know why it was like that, but it just was not good. Like it was like, like stuff was like dry, stuff was like lukewarm. You know what I mean? Stuff was like average. I guess I expected better because it was like this
Well, and it was a private
phenomenal.
hospital. It was
Yeah,
private.
yeah, yeah.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
private, but
yeah.
you said
And
there were no diapers in the
yeah.
room, or
And yeah, and there was like nothing in the room to like take care of him with, like for
yes.
instance, like they take him away to like, give him, say like formula or put a diaper or, bathe him, whatever, not bathe him. Because they didn't do like, I don't do that because I wanted to do that. So formula or diaper. But yeah, so either they would provide it, okay, wherever their little room was, okay, or their room was not little, but their room was, or I brought it into the facility. But there was nothing like in the drawers, there was like, yeah, there was nothing in the drawers for like
It
to
was
take
like
care of him.
sterile. It just
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
like it was sterile. So how many days were you
exactly.
in the hospital after giving birth?
Let me see. So Wednesday morning, January 3rd, was when I had the cesarean, and then I left Friday night. And the only reason I left was because like I was up and walking Friday morning, and the OBGYN was like, "Wow." She's like, how do you feel?" And I said, "I feel fine." She's like, "Well, do you want to go home or do you want to stay just another day?" And I said, "Honestly, I want to go home. I
Okay.
feel fine." And I did feel fine. Now, of course, it was wonderful pain medication. I didn't realize. I mean, she did give me a prescription. So like when I left, like, hours later when it wore off, like thankfully I had filled the prescription before I left the
Yes.
hospital and I was able to like, take some of that. And then I was like, oh yeah, no wonder I was feeling wonderful.
So what was the education like as far as, you know, them, because you speak Spanish. I'm
Hmm.
assuming that most of your caregivers were Spanish speaking.
Hmm.
But I'm sure that in the US, nowadays women probably get consultations about,
Hmm.
how to care for your baby, how to care for yourself. You had a doula. And can we just speak real quickly about a doula? The doula that you had was, you
Hmm.
found her here in Panama.
Yeah. Actually I found her through my OBGYN because I had asked her, does she know a doula? I mean,
Okay.
I had gotten a referral from the group, but I was like, well, hey, I got a referral, but do you know one? And she's like, yeah, there's a woman who like does only want to work with me.
Mhm.
And yeah, and so she referred her. And yeah, the doula was present. That night. So like she was there like, for the cesarean and like hours later into the night. And then she came to check on me the next days that I was there. So the
Okay.
Thursday and the Friday. And then she came to check on me. It was like I think it was like a Monday or something like that. So like she came afterwards to check, and that was all included. She came afterwards to check how
Okay.
was I doing and stuff like that. Yeah.
So you said that was all included. So it was
Yeah.
okay. So being at the private hospital, a vaginal birth was going to run about 1,300. A
hmm
cesarean birth was going to run about 1,800.
hmm
How much was the doula?
Oh, okay. So the 1,800 actually was increased to like 3,000 because I had upgraded the room. Okay.
Okay.
My mom's meals were not included, so that was also the other thing too. There were like okay, a couple of other things that were like not included. Because I had said to my doctor, I'm like, I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to be asking for nothing. Like, I want to make sure that like I'm
Yeah, you
taken
have
care of.
everything.
So
I
it was
mean,
yes,
but at
yeah. So
$3,000 and having a baby in the base price being less than 2,000, it's like, give me the sky. I mean, I want the VIP package.
yeah. So it was about 3,000. But so the doula, she was someone I paid separately out of my pocket, and that was like $600, I think it
six
was.
hundred dollars from the time you connected with her right away when you got
hmm
here, like the 7 months. So from like 7 to 9 months, you had her. What did
No,
you
no,
get
no, no.
aftercare?
Okay. So like she comes to the apartment and that doesn't cost anything, the consultation. But then afterwards, when she starts coming, yeah, that does cost. So that's basically so she does this it's like at least 1 hour she discusses the birth plan. Okay. So you talk about like, well, if you had a vaginal or if you had a cesarean, what would you like your treatment, your care to be? Who do you
Mhm.
want to call, consult? How do you want to be treated? All kinds of things. Like,
Was
do
she
you want music?
bilingual?
Oh, yeah, she
Okay.
was, but she didn't speak much English.
Okay.
Okay. So
Mhm.
we spoke in Spanish. That was fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that well
Um,
that well, that worked out. Well, that
yeah.
that was good. So tell me this. So you're here,
hmm
you're 45,
Yeah.
you have a new baby, and he is so cute. What's his name?
Ephraim.
Ephraim.
Yeah, son of
Ephraim.
Joseph.
All right. He is a sweetie. So you're here, you're by yourself. You have a brand new baby, you had IVF. How do you feel that Panama has received you? Has it been, like something that's weird? Or how do you find, have you seen, what has it been like?
Well, it's funny because like this is something that I mentioned to you about like, it is a little bit strange for people to understand here about IVF. Like even when I was in what's it called? Even when I was in Ecuador or Peru, even though they do fertility treatments, in all these places, even
Yes.
here too, it just still is strange for the average common person to understand, even though there are fertility clinics in all these places. In Estonia, it was like, oh, okay, no big deal. There was a nutritionist there that I met with, and she told me, she's like, oh, I had to do it 12 times. So it's understandable there. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
So okay,
okay,
so like for
because
instance, like
because
here, yeah,
because
go
you
ahead.
have a lot of places who are sometimes places and people are religious and they
Yeah.
don't really subscribe, to the
Yeah.
IVF. So that's good to hear that you feel like you were well received
Yeah.
with that. So that's awesome. Let me just talk real quickly about where you live. Now you said it was cool and not Medellin. The
Yeah.
other place that you were in Colombia was too cool.
Oh, Bogota.
Okay. But one of the main reasons that people move to the area that you live in is because of the cooler temperatures. So how does it compare?
Oh, no, no, no. So Algarrobas is hot. David is hot. Boquete is the one that's cooler. But yeah, I'm 30, believe it or not, like even 30 minutes south of that, it's not cooler here like it's in Boquete.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't, because I thought they had like similar temperatures.
No, no. Like if you come here, oh my goodness, like people are always like, gosh, it's so hot, it's so hot. No, no, no. It's Boquete that's cooler because Boquete goes up into the mountains. Like
Yes.
so sometimes when I'm driving, you can like I can feel my ears
Yes.
pop
Wow.
because I'm driving up into the mountain. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So okay, so I was curious about that, and I just learned something else because I just assumed that the temperatures were similar. However, comma, there's a lot of microclimates here
Yeah.
in Panama anyway, and
Mm-hmm.
basically that's really good, I think, because you can find you can find everybody can kind of find what they're looking for. You can get
Yeah.
polar
Yeah.
and not be that far from the city, if you want to go into the valleys or whatever, or more like green areas, which I don't do too much green,
Yeah.
and things like that. But that's
Oh,
awesome.
I was just gonna say real quick about when you said like being received here. Okay, so like initially I used to talk, tell people like, oh, IVF and like, like explain to them but obviously that's stupid of me. I don't need to explain anything to anyone. But like
Right.
it would kind of like go over people's head, like the understanding, because
Mhm.
like, like for instance, like in Ecuador, I had someone ask me like, oh, well, do the babies turn out normal? Like, and I'm like, why wouldn't they? But anyway, so now I stopped doing that. So when people here have asked me, "Oh, where's the father?" I just say, "Oh, he's in Peru." And there are like lots of women who like have had their man leave them. So they're like, no joke. I've had women tell me, "Oh, I'm a single mom too." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I just leave it like that.
Yeah,
So,
but you were married before and then you were divorced.
oh,
And
yes, yes.
you
Oh,
this is just
foolishly
this
married.
is a
Yes.
personal choice that you made for yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I just really look, I felt like I would just be happier on my own. And yeah, and I wanted a baby, and it was just like,
I'm
yeah,
glad
this
that
is
you
fine.
said that because I'm going to tell you something. I was
Hmm.
a single parent for some years.
Hmm.
And I met my husband when my daughter was 6 years old. Okay. I'm glad that you said that because, like I said, when, me and my daughter's father, her biological father, we broke up when she was like 18 months. And
Hmm.
we have been together, I think like 5 years altogether. And
Hmm.
at the end of the day, don't feel sorry for me.
Hmm.
I don't like the whole like, I'm a single mom and it's like
Yeah.
it's like sort of like it's a disadvantage or it's a
Yeah.
disease or it's like, oh, woe is me. I had this one
Yeah.
woman, I'll never forget it. She said, I'm a single mom and now a single grandma. Girl, what? You ain't
And,
raising them babies. Why is it so important? And at the end
yeah.
of the day, I think that we need to stop that. There are some situations where you're better off being a single mom. You know,
Yes,
my
yes.
my husband, I met him when my daughter was 6 years old. And so basically he raised her from that time. My daughter is like
Mhm.
38 or something now.
Mhm.
And I'm grateful that he did. However,
Yeah.
to stay with her father so that I wouldn't be a single mother would have
Hmm.
been a downgrade in my life.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying. So
Yes.
I really don't like it when people make it like it's such a hardship to being a single parent. Listen, I feel like
Hmm.
sometimes it's easier for me to take care of me and a small individual who needs me. If you're in a situation where you got somebody, you're trying to build a life, you're trying to make the best decisions and choices for your kids, and they're making
Hmm.
bad decisions, they're spending
Yeah.
family money, and all this kind of stuff. Don't feel sorry for me. Listen,
Yeah.
I honestly, so don't get me started with
Yeah.
that because
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a single mom. I can't stand that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, I had an ex-husband who like, yeah, who would just be spending money and stuff. And I was like, quitting jobs, but he wanted to have a child. And I was like, no, no, like life is too stressful. And I was honest. I was like, what am I gonna be doing? Raising a child and taking care of you? This is crazy. And then obviously when I said that, I realized I need to get a divorce. But anyway, yeah, so you know, so I mean, I had, when I finally told my friends, I was like, hey, because I only told a few people. And so when I finally had a baby and I told people, and friends who had gotten divorced, because I had a bunch of friends who had gotten divorced, they were like, wow, they're like, you did it the right way because don't have to deal with some dad who's not doing anything at
Yes.
home, causing you stress. And look, I do believe in love. I do believe in two-parent households, but it just wasn't coming together for me. It wasn't like, I wanted to make sure that like I had a good partner because I had already, and I'll say this, I had already made a mistake with one husband. I didn't want to do it again. And I didn't find the right person, not the perfect person, the right person to be a parent, not to be
Well,
my spouse or my
Jalila,
partner, to be a parent. And that
Jalila,
was important.
what I like is that you made choices for your life.
Yeah.
All of your story says to me, this sister makes choices for her life, even
Yeah.
in the sense that, okay, well, I'm not married. I don't really see a Mr. Right in my future right now, but I'm 40 something years old. And I know that
Yeah.
I would like to have a child in
Yeah.
this life journey of mine. And you just
Yeah.
took that into your own hands,
Yeah.
even to the point where you were in Peru. You
Yeah.
were in Peru, you did research, you traveled to different
Yeah.
places, you figured out where it was best to, best to have your baby. And unfortunately, for all my North American sisters, it was not the United States of America.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't even tell you the last person I knew that had a natural birth,
Yeah.
because nowadays in the US, they're not trying to come out their house at some godforsaken hour for
Yeah.
you, even though to have a baby in the
Yeah.
United States is, I have no idea what it costs to have a baby in the United States, but I know that it's probably no less than 20 times what
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
costs you to have
And
a baby
and
in
the thing
Panama.
is, like what made me say, because I had friends who were like, well, you're not coming back to the United States to give birth to him. And I was like, no, I'm not. And the one thing I kept saying was, look, even though, sure, there are Black women having babies in the United States and they survive it, and that's fine. But what stuck with me is the Serena Williams article in Elle magazine, where Serena Williams talks about her first birth and how she was, afraid, how she was begging, how she was trying to convince for some kind of scan. I don't remember if it was like an MRI, CT. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, this is Serena
This is
Williams,
Serena. There
worldwide
you go.
famous,
Yes.
wealthy beyond
Yes.
belief, married to the creator of Reddit, who's also wealthy, famous. And you mean
And
to tell
white.
me, exactly. And you mean to tell me this is the situation that's
Yes,
happening?
she
Look,
has.
I'm nobody. I'm not saying
Yes.
like I'm nobody, but I'm saying
You ain't
I'm
Serena Williams.
exactly far from it. Okay. I have
Yes.
average intelligence. No one knows me except my family and friends. I have a little bit of savings, but it's not much. And it's like,
Yeah,
no,
no.
no,
Yeah, no.
no,
Yeah,
no.
no. Okay, so unfortunately, we got to get ready to go. But
Okay.
so now that you're in Panama,
Yeah.
and I do have to point out that your situation could be a little bit different because you are a Panamanian citizen, so you can
Yeah.
do different work anyway.
Yeah.
But you have chosen to do digital work, correct?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're a virtual assistant.
Yes.
Excelente.
Yes.
Excelente.
Yes.
A
Yeah.
virtual assistant, I think, is um, a great occupation to
hmm
consider if you're trying
Yeah.
to do digital. So,
Yeah.
you want to tell us a little bit about that and maybe give
Sure.
any parting advice on people who might be considering Panama as a relocation?
Yeah, sure. So, like, I mean, you can obviously like find private clients. I chose to like work through company so that way like they could like provide me with clients, okay? And yeah, and I do lots of different things. So like I work with a software company and I do lots of back end stuff that has to do with sales. And then I also do digital graphics for like therapists and book publishers and things like that. Okay, so I do lots of different things for them. So, but the other thing too about like, and I chose to, work from like a company in the United States because the salary obviously would help me live a comfortable life here. Like
Right.
I work 33 hours every week. Okay. And with that amount, I make a little bit more than $2,000, and I don't mind saying that. But
Okay.
with that,
Thank you.
that's considered good money here. Okay. And so obviously what I just said, I'm not working 40 hours a week. I hire a young girl to come in and watch Ephraim while I'm working. So, if I want to like hold him, if I want to kiss him, if I want to feed him, if I want to watch him sleep, he's right
Yes.
here. He's right here. He doesn't go
Right.
anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. So I would honestly, I would recommend everyone who wants to be able to raise your family in a calmer, quieter, environment to come on over to Panama. Yes, there's lots of things to do.
So just to be clear, that's 2,000 a month.
Yeah, yeah,
2,000 a month, and you're able to live comfortably. You
yeah,
found a 2 bedroom, 1 bath in your
yeah,
area, not far from um Boquete, more in the
yeah,
David area for $600 a month.
yeah.
And it's working for you
Yeah. And actually, I'm signing tomorrow a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house.
for your
It's
mom
in
to come.
David. So I'm moving just 15 minutes down the street to like
Yes.
the city. And it's $750. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. It's in a gated community. And so that's why I recommend people. And there's other people here who are raising their kids, and yeah, it's more economical, it's more affordable, and I can do lots of the same things that you could do in the United States. Like
But did you
today I
connect
was
with the Black expat community there, the Blingos?
Oh yeah, 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 the Blingos. Yeah, absolutely. There is so there are several parents who are like, "Oh, great. I'm in the what's it called? The David area as well." And yeah, so we're gonna get together, but normally I'm getting together in the Boquete area because there's like a
Yes.
story hour at the library. So that's what I do. But anyway, yeah, the other thing I was gonna say is that, for instance, there's lots of things that I'm able to do here with him that I can do in the United States, but it's cheaper. So like for instance, I want to put him in swimming classes. They start at 4 months, but he's going to be 6 months soon. And it's cheaper. I can buy lots of hours and hours and hours, and it's
Yes.
it's only a couple $100.
Wow.
So it's things like that. I don't have to work 40 hours a week. Could I? Yes, but
Mhm.
I choose not to, and I can still go out and walk. There's parks. There's, every single backyard has a yard. The crime is not the same in the United States or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like it's just, yeah, my largest expense is my housing, and
Okay.
that's it. That's my largest expense.
But you
Yeah.
work from home, so like that's
Yeah.
great. Have you seen any scorpions in your house, or do you have a bunch of geckos?
I do have lots of lizards, which I don't mind because, I think that they like eat the insects and stuff, which I don't
Yeah,
mind. So, but I have not seen any scorpions. Yeah.
good, good.
Yeah.
But you have lots of lizards.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah.
they
And
get
they
inside?
oh yeah, yeah. I see them all the time. Well, I don't see any right now, but yeah, I mean, because they'll like poop in places, and then like you'll see like the little tiny little poop. So I just have to like wipe down surfaces and stuff. But yeah, I don't mind because that way, like say if there's like a spider or I don't know whatever else. Like I know like they'll eat it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When I came to Boquete, I saw my first scorpion. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, this is not the place for me.
Yeah.
But listen, I am so grateful to you and Ephraim,
Ephraim.
Ephraim.
Yeah.
And guess what? He was such a good boy.
Oh,
He
good.
was such a good
Because he's
boy.
so
Oh
feisty
my
right now. So like
God.
we still, like it's so feisty right now because it's like, when you had when this started like at 6, like around
Yes.
5 something, he woke up from his second nap.
Oh, so he's
So
wide
he's like,
awake.
I'm ready, I'm ready.
Oh,
Yeah.
he was such a good boy. I appreciate you taking the time to
Oh,
spend with
thanks.
us. And I'm sure particularly those women who learned a lot about,
Yeah.
having babies abroad, which thank
Yeah.
you so much for that information. Like, it's
Yeah,
kind of
no
late for me,
problem. Yeah.
but for a
Yeah.
lot of
And
people,
I know that it's not like a common thing for people to be like,
right,
"Hey, I'm going to go have my child in another country."
right,
But the private hospitals, I don't know about the public because that was not my experience, but the private
right,
hospitals were great. We go
and
to a private
affordable.
hospital now. Yeah, it's called a Hospital Chiriquí. I
Mhm.
do pay for a private insurance, just in case of anything. But like I pay a lot of stuff out of my pocket. Like and
Wow.
it's not a big deal. Yeah, so
Excellent.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you, my love. I appreciate you being
Okay.
with me.
Okay. All right. Have a great day.
Bye. Have a
Bye.
good evening.
Okay, you too.
Okay, thank you. And there you have it. I mean, that was just such an interesting conversation, and I really appreciate her and the baby taking time to spend some moments with me because then again, she opened up another thought, another idea, another option. Who knew that they had a really good IVF program in Peru? I didn't know. So for those of you who are making that choice, whether you're in a relationship or you're just making that choice for you in your personal life, maybe that's something to consider. There's so many things that we can consider the international arena for. And unfortunately, we are so convinced that the United States has the best of everything for everybody. And we're just finding out that that's not necessarily the case. Okay. So she got some really good care. She didn't have the warm fuzzies that come sometimes with US experiences. I feel like she just didn't have a lot of bedside manner when she was having her baby, but she got good care. Her mom is a nurse, and her mom was like, they gave you really good care. They did a really good job as far as delivering the baby and everything. So I think that that's important for us to know. Um, I think it's important for us to know what she pays for rent in the David area and that the David area is not cold or cool like Boquete. I did not know that. I just learned that today. And I just figured that, they're so close together that they were, very similar in climate. But Panama does have a lot of microclimates here. So with that said, that's going to conclude our show today. I certainly hope that her information has been helpful to you. I want to give a shout out to my main man, Daryl Spears, Elite Conversations Podcast Media, for producing my shows for me. Of course, as always, I want to give love to Devin and Riley for creating Black Said Radio, giving us an opportunity to put our voices in the world that my grandchildren can hear me forever. I hope so. A lot of things going on with Black expats in Panama. Follow us everywhere at Black Expats in Panama. Connect with us on our website, blackexpatsinpanama.net. We're on Instagram, Facebook. Like and subscribe at our YouTube channel and just keep up with what's going down. We've released our New Year's Eve celebratory cruise. So we're going to be sailing into 2025 together again. So that's available. We have the Sisters in Panama this year. 2025 is our 5th anniversary, and we're doing something different this year. We are taking a cruise. We are calling it our celebration. And honestly, guys, I put that out about a week and a half ago, and probably by the time you hear this, it will be sold out. So glory to God for that. Happy for the people that were able to get a cabin. All of them are ocean view. We finna have a good time, baby. So anyway, lots of stuff going on. We're just about to release our 2025 relocation tour dates. Don't forget, when you're coming to Panama, we usually go a group tour to Cologne. Our Cultural Caribbean Day is usually on the 3rd of the month. Plan your vacation around that. It's an unforgettable experience. Our Cultural Caribbean Day is on the 3rd. Our BEIP B2B network meetup is always on the second Wednesday of the month. We make it easy for you, and we have Welcome Wednesdays, which are now beginning in August, going to be held exclusively at the Daiquiri 23, which is owned and operated by Black expats and also Afro-Panamanians, which we absolutely love. Supporting that venue. So just a lot going on. We got about 6 seats left on our Ghana tour, our second Ghana tour. The first tour sold out in 5 days. God is good, y'all. God is good. And listen, I'm going to go ahead and let y'all go. She didn't really have a song that she wanted to hear like from the 70s and the 80s. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick one for her. So I'm going to leave y'all with my main man, Bill Withers. Use Me. That was just one of my favorites. So listen, y'all be good. I will connect with you soon. This is Charlotte Van Horn, Black Expats in Panama, by way of Little Old Glassboro, New Jersey, right here on BlackSitRadio.com, baby. 3 years, I think. 2 years, 3 years? 3 years, and something like 3 years. So listen, I love you. I love you. I love you. And there's just nothing you can do about it. Peace, y'all.